Episode 9. The Prince of Nightmares. Jade Anderson Kruger discovered she was pregnant while throwing up into a toilet at 3 in the morning, which seemed fitting given that nothing about her life had ever been conventional. The nausea had started a week ago, subtle at first, just a vague queasiness that she'd blamed on bad takeout or stress from inventory day at the bookstore. But it had gotten progressively worse, and now here she was, kneeling on cold bathroom tile while her stomach tried to turn itself inside out, and her husband held her hair back with surprising gentleness. This is new, Freddie observed, his human form making it easier to navigate the small bathroom. You never get sick. Thanks for the reminder, Jade managed between heaves. Very helpful. When the worst of it passed, she sat back against the wall, accepting the damp cloth Freddie handed her. He settled beside her on the floor, his expression a mix of concern and confusion that would have been funny if she didn't feel like death warmed over. How long has this been happening? He asked. Few days. Getting worse though. Jade pressed the cloth to her forehead. I thought it was just a bug or something, but bugs don't usually last this long. Freddie was quiet for a moment, and she could practically see the gears turning in his head. Then his eyes went wide, amber bleeding through the blue as the demon underneath surged forward in surprise. Oh fuck, he said. What? Jade, when was your last period? She had to think about it, counting back weeks in her head, and oh no, 6 weeks ago? Maybe 7? I lose track sometimes when the implications hit like a freight train. Wait, no, that's not possible. You're dead. Dead people can't get anyone pregnant. I'm also partly alive again thanks to our bond, and we've been having a lot of sex, like a truly impressive amount of sex. Freddie's hand found her stomach, pressing gently against the flat surface. What if the rules changed again? What if our bond made this possible? Jade stared at him, her mind racing through the impossibilities that had become their normal life. They'd shattered the barrier between dreams and waking. Freddie could exist in both worlds, shift between human and demon forms. They bound themselves together in ways that transcended normal reality. Why couldn't pregnancy be part of that equation? I need a test, she said. Multiple tests. Because if this is real, if I'm actually pregnant with a dream demon's baby, we need to know for sure. 20 minutes later, Jade was staring at 4 positive pregnancy tests lined up on the bathroom counter like tiny plastic heralds of doom. Or joy. She couldn't quite decide which. Okay, she said, her voice surprisingly calm, given that her entire world had just shifted again. Okay, so I'm pregnant. With your baby. A baby that's half human and half nightmare demon. This is fine. This is totally fine. You're spiraling, Freddie observed. I'm not spiraling. I'm processing. There's a difference. Jade picked up one of the tests and waved it at him. We're going to have a baby, Freddie. An actual infant human. Except not entirely human because of the whole dream demon father situation. What does that even mean? What kind of baby is this going to be? Freddie pulled her into his arms, and despite the panic clawing at her chest, Jade felt herself calming slightly. His presence always did that, grounded her when reality got too strange. I don't know, he admitted. This has never happened before. As far as I'm aware, dream demons don't reproduce. We're created from fear and trauma, not born. But you and I, we've been breaking rules since day one. Why should this be any different? Because this is a baby, a whole person who didn't ask to be born into our insane life. What if something goes wrong? What if the baby inherits too much of your demon side and can't exist properly in the real world? What if I can't carry a supernatural pregnancy to term? Then we figure it out, together, like we always do. Freddie cupped her face with both hands, making her look at him. Jade, I know this is scary. I'm fucking terrified too. But if there's one thing we've proven, it's that nothing is impossible for us. We'll make this work. I'll protect both of you with everything I am. The absolute conviction in his voice made tears prick at Jade's eyes. You're already in dad mode. It's been 5 minutes and you're already going full protective father. Damn right I am. That's my kid in there. Our kid. Half you and half me. The most impossible, wonderful thing we've created yet. His hand moved to her stomach again, and his expression softened into something that made Jade's heart ache. We made a life, Jade. Out of nightmares and devotion and love that shouldn't exist, that does anyway. That's fucking miraculous. Jade covered his hand with hers, both of them pressed against her stomach where their impossible child was growing. We're really doing this. We're having a baby. We're having a baby, Freddie confirmed, and the joy in his voice was unmistakable. The pregnancy was, unsurprisingly, nothing like normal pregnancies. For one thing, the morning sickness lasted approximately 3 weeks and then vanished completely, replaced by cravings that made no logical sense. Jade would wake up at 2 in the morning desperately needing pickles and ice cream, which was cliché enough. But she'd also crave things that shouldn't be edible. Dream fruit from Freddie's garden, starlight wine. Foods that existed only in nightmares but that Freddie could somehow make solid enough for her to taste. This can't be healthy, Jade said one night, eating what looked like a pomegranate that tasted like cinnamon and smoke. And feeding our baby dream food, that has to violate some kind of nutritional guideline. The baby is half dream demon. It probably needs dream food. Freddie was sprawled beside her on the couch, his hand resting on her stomach, which had started to swell with visible proof of their child. Besides, you tried eating normal food earlier and threw it all up. At least this stays down. He wasn't wrong. Regular food had become almost impossible to keep down, but anything Freddie manifested from the dream realm settled in her stomach without issue. It was like the baby knew what it needed and was making its preferences very clear. Then there were the dreams. Jade had always been a vivid dreamer, but pregnancy took it to a whole new level. Every night when she slept, she'd find herself in landscapes that shifted and changed, half-formed worlds that felt like they were being created in real time. And she could feel the baby in those dreams, a small, bright presence that pulsed with awareness. I think the baby's building things, she told Freddie one morning after a particularly intense dream. Last night I dreamed of a castle made of shadows and glass, and I could feel the baby's consciousness shaping it, like it's learning how to manipulate the dream realm before it's even born. Freddie's expression was fascinated and slightly concerned. That's advanced. That kind of dream manipulation usually takes decades to master. Our kid is doing it from the womb. So we're having a prodigy. Great. No pressure there. As Jade's stomach grew, so did the strangeness. Sometimes, when Freddie touched her belly, his hand would sink slightly, like the surface of her skin had become permeable to him. They'd see shadows moving under her skin that weren't quite normal, shapes that suggested their child was already practicing shifting forms. The baby was strong, inhumanly strong. The first time Jade felt a kick, it nearly knocked the wind out of her. Freddie had been there, and his hand on her stomach had felt the impact hard enough to make him laugh in delighted surprise. "That's my kid," he said proudly, already packing a punch. "Your kid's gonna break my ribs if it keeps kicking like that." Margaret at the bookstore had taken one look at Jade's growing stomach and made the sign of the cross, which would have been offensive if it wasn't so funny. "That child has an aura," Margaret had said seriously. "Dark and bright all at once. It's going to be special, powerful, probably terrifying." Probably, Jade had agreed, because there was no point denying it. Her best friend Amy had been more direct. "You're having a demon baby. Like actual demon baby. This is either the coolest thing ever or the start of a horror movie, and I can't decide which." "Both," Jade replied. "It's definitely both." At 6 months pregnant, Jade woke up to find Freddie staring at her stomach with an expression of absolute wonder. Not unusual, he'd taken to doing that a lot lately, but this time there was something different in his face. "What?" Jade asked, still half asleep. The baby just kicked, and I felt it. Not physically, in the dream realm. The baby reached out and touched my consciousness. Freddie's hand pressed against her stomach. "Jade, our kid just said hello to me. Not in words, but I felt it. Recognition, awareness. The baby knows I'm its father." Tears sprang to Jade's eyes immediately, hormones making her more emotional than usual. "Really, the baby knows you." "The baby knows both of us. I can feel it. It's aware in there, Jade. Conscious and growing and learning, and it's not afraid. It feels safe, protected, loved." Freddie's voice had gone rough. "We're doing something right." They decided not to find out the sex, wanting at least one surprise in a pregnancy that was already full of supernatural revelations. But Jade had a feeling, something maternal and instinctive, that said they were having a boy. She mentioned it to Freddie one night while they were lying in bed, his hand tracing patterns on her swollen stomach. "A boy," Freddie repeated thoughtfully. "A son. I like that. What should we name him?" They debated names for hours, discarding anything too normal or too obviously supernatural. Nothing felt quite right until Jade suggested Lucas, a variation on Lucas that felt darker, more fitting for a child of nightmares. Lucas, Freddie had tested the name. Lucas Kruger. The Prince of Nightmares. It's perfect. At 7 months, Jade's body started doing things that definitely weren't in any pregnancy book. Her skin would shimmer sometimes, like light was refracting through her at odd angles. Her shadow would move independently, stretching and shifting in ways shadow shouldn't. Then sometimes, when she was very tired, she'd accidentally slip partially into the dream realm without meaning to, her physical form becoming translucent and ghostly. "The baby is affecting you," Freddie explained. "Its power is bleeding through, changing you, making you more like me, more able to exist between worlds." "Is that dangerous?" "No. I think it's protective. The baby's making sure you can survive carrying it to term, making you strong enough to handle what's coming." What came at 8 months was labor, fast and intense, and absolutely nothing like what the pregnancy books had described. Jade's water broke at midnight while she was making tea, and the contraction started immediately. Not the gradual building that was supposed to happen, but full force pain that dropped her to her knees. Freddie was at her side instantly, his human form flickering as panic made him lose control. "Hospital. We need to get you to a hospital." "No hospital." Jade gritted her teeth through another contraction. "They'll know something's wrong. They'll see that the baby isn't normal. We have to do this here." "Jade, I've killed people. I haven't delivered babies. I don't know what I'm doing." Then we learned fast. What followed was hours of pain and panic, and Freddie doing his absolute best to help while clearly terrified he was going to mess something up catastrophically. He manifested every medical supply he could think of from the dream realm, turning their bedroom into a makeshift delivery room. He held Jade's hand and let her squeeze hard enough to break bones that healed immediately, because dream demon durability had advantages. And when the pain became too much, he did something unexpected. He pulled Jade partially into the dream realm with him, just enough that the physical agony was muted. Not gone, because the baby needed to be born in the real world, but manageable. "I've got you," he kept saying. "I've got both of you. You can do this." At 3 in the morning, with dawn just starting to think about approaching, Lucas Kruger came into the world screaming. The sound wasn't entirely human. It had edges to it, harmonics that suggested the child was already announcing his presence to both worlds. Freddie caught him, this tiny squirming thing covered in blood and vernix and absolutely perfect, and stared in absolute wonder. "It's a boy," he said unnecessarily, his voice thick with emotion. "Jade, we have a son. We have a son." Jade was crying and laughing and reaching for her baby with desperate need. Freddie placed Lucas on her chest carefully, and the infant immediately quieted, his tiny fist gripping her finger with surprising strength. He was beautiful, small, maybe 6 pounds, with a shock of dark hair that already looked like it couldn't decide if it wanted to be black or red. His eyes, when they opened, were startling, shifting colors like his father's, blue fading to amber, fading to something that looked almost silver. Dream demon eyes in a tiny human face. "Hello, Lucas," Jade whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Hello, my beautiful boy. We've been waiting for you." The baby made a sound, and the shadows in the room moved, just a little, just enough to notice, already practicing the powers he'd inherited. Freddie leaned in close, his hand covering both Jade's and the baby's, and when he spoke his voice was raw. "I never thought I could have this. Family, a son, something good that came from me instead of just death and fear. Thank you, Jade. Thank you for giving me this." "We gave each other this," Jade corrected, "our impossible miracle." They stayed like that for a long time, the three of them together while dawn broke outside, and Lucas learned what it meant to be held and loved and absolutely treasured by parents who would burn any world down to protect him. The first few weeks with a newborn were exhausting under normal circumstances. With a half-demon baby, it was something else entirely. Lucas didn't sleep on any schedule known to human infants. He'd sleep for 12 hours straight, and then stay awake for almost as long, his silver blue amber eyes tracking movement with uncanny awareness. When he cried, lights would flicker and shadows would twist, the dream realm responding to his distress. And he was hungry, constantly, desperately hungry in a way that normal breastfeeding couldn't quite satisfy. Jade would feed him until her body couldn't produce anymore, and he'd still be fussing until Freddy figured out he could manifest dream essence, pure concentrated energy from the nightmare realm that the baby would absorb and finally settle. He's feeding on fear and love both, Freddy explained, holding his son while Lucas pulled in dream energy like breathing. Human nutrients from you, nightmare sustenance from me. He needs both to grow properly. Watching Freddy with their son was something Jade would never get tired of. The way he'd hold Lucas with such careful tenderness, this nightmare demon cradling an infant with absolute devotion. The way he'd talk to the baby in that gravelly voice, explaining dream realm mechanics or telling stories about his existence in ways that were probably too dark for a newborn, but Lucas seemed to find soothing. You're going to be powerful, Freddy would tell his son. Stronger than me, probably. You've got the best of both worlds in you. Human heart and demon strength. Your mother's courage and my ability to terrify anyone who threatens us. You're going to be magnificent. At 2 weeks old, Lucas smiled for the first time. A real smile, not gas, directed at Freddy while his father was changing his diaper. And when he smiled, every shadow in the room smiled too. Thousands of dark grins that should have been terrifying, but just seemed joyful. Did our son just make the shadows smile? Jade asked from the doorway. He did. He absolutely did. Freddy scooped up the baby and held him high. That's my boy. Already mastering shadow manipulation. We'll make a proper nightmare of you yet. He's 2 weeks old. Maybe let him master sleeping through the night before we move on to nightmare training. Multitasking is important. At 1 month, Lucas started phasing, just a little bit at first, his hand disappearing and reappearing, his feet becoming translucent. He'd do it when he was happy or excited, his control not quite developed enough to keep himself solid. Freddy thought it was hilarious. Jade had a minor panic attack the first time her baby vanished completely from his crib, only to find him floating near the ceiling, giggling and completely safe. He can fly, too, Freddy said, sounding proud. Advanced motor skills. Most demon spawn don't manage flight until they're at least a year old. Our son is not demon spawn. Our son is exactly demon spawn, the most adorable demon spawn ever, but still demon spawn. Look at him floating up there like a tiny, terrifying balloon. By 2 months, Lucas had developed a routine that worked for their unconventional family. He'd sleep in Jade's arms in the real world during the day while she dozed on the couch between feedings. At night, Freddy would take him into the dream realm, the two of them exploring landscapes that shifted and changed while Lucas learned to control his abilities in an environment where mistakes couldn't hurt him. Jade would join them sometimes, the three of them existing in dreams together. They'd explore the garden Freddy had built, which had expanded to include a playground that defied physics, swings that flew higher than possible, slides that led to different realms, a sandbox filled with stars. Lucas loved it there, his infant laughter echoing through impossible spaces while his parents watched with besotted expressions. He's going to be trouble, Jade said one night, watching Lucas make flowers bloom just by looking at them. He's got your power and my stubborn streak. We're doomed. We're blessed, Freddy corrected, pulling her close. Look at Jade, look at what we made. He's perfect. And he was. Tiny and powerful and absolutely loved. The Prince of Nightmares, heir to a kingdom that existed in dreams, son of an impossible union, proof that love could create miracles even from darkness. At 3 months, Lucas said his first word. Not mama or dada like normal babies, but something in dream language, a word that meant safe home love all at once. He said it while looking at both his parents, and the bond between the three of them flared so bright that reality wavered. Did he just speak in dream language? Jade asked, awed. He did. He's claiming us, saying we're his home. Freddy's voice was rough with emotion again. Both of us. His family. They held their son between them, this tiny being who was teaching them what it meant to be parents every single day, who challenged them and exhausted them and filled them with more love than they thought possible. We're doing okay, right? Jade asked softly. As parents, we're not completely screwing this up. Are you kidding? Our son can manipulate shadows and speak dream language and phase through walls, and he's happy. Look at him. That's what matters. Not whether we're following some normal parenting playbook, but whether he feels loved and safe and powerful enough to become whatever he wants to be. Jade looked at their son, at Lucas, who was currently trying to grab Freddy's nose with tiny fingers that occasionally went translucent, and felt a wave of certainty wash over her. They were figuring it out, day by day, moment by moment, learning how to raise a child who was half human and half dream demon in a life that existed between worlds. It wouldn't be easy. There would be challenges they couldn't anticipate, dangers that came from raising something unprecedented, but they faced those together, like they faced everything else. I love you, Jade said, looking between her husband and her son, both of you. My nightmares made real, my impossible family. We love you too, Freddy replied, and Lucas made a sound of agreement, his shifting eyes bright with recognition. This was their life now. Midnight feedings and dream realm adventures. Teaching their son how to exist in both worlds without losing himself to either, building a future that was strange and wonderful and absolutely theirs. The Prince of Nightmares had arrived, and he was perfect. Half human, half demon, all loved. And his parents, the Nightmare King and his queen, were determined to give him everything, protection and power, tenderness and strength, the freedom to be exactly what he was without apology. Their impossible son. Their beautiful boy. Their Lucas. The beginning of a new chapter in a love story that kept rewriting the rules of what was possible. And neither Jade nor Freddy would have changed a single thing.